Welcome back, everybody. We've got Adam Macaluso back, retired Lieutenant Colonel, Marine, once Marine, always a Marine. And on this episode, Mo is going to be joining us, and we're going to be digging a little bit more into, Adam, your military time and in your wartime and what it was like leading young men and women. I'm not quite sure, the breakdown on that side, and then, we're going to transition into, you're going to be starting very soon working school security in New Jersey. So it kind of ties into what we've been talking about the last episode or two. So I appreciate you being back, brother.
I'm so happy to be back, bro. I'm excited. And I'm even more excited because we have Mo here. So I heard all these good things about her. So I'm excited.
Damn right. Damn right.
We both heard good things about each other. So I can be confident.
Perfect. Well, I just kind of want to, so we briefly discussed, you going through your military training, and then we talked about some of the stuff you saw when you were overseas, and just to correct, it was Afghanistan, correct?
No, the first time in combat was Iraq for the invasion in 2003.
Perfect. Thank you. So I guess for me, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, and it might just be because, you need to draw stuff out in crayon for me, but how old were you when you led soldiers into combat?
Well, first it was Marines. Okay.
Marines. I keep doing it. I sometimes I do it just to mess with you, but that was on me.
I know. So I was 29. So, so let me give a little bit of a backstory. So I'd been at that point, I've been in the Marine Corps a little over 3 years. Yeah, a little over 3 years, like 2 years in the operational forces. And it's weird because I started out when I first got to the fleet. I went to 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, 3-4 in 29 Palms. And I did time there. I was a platoon commander, did a non-combat deployment to Okinawa. And that was 2001 to 2002. And that's when 9/11 happened. And, that we were all like, oh, fuck, we're going to war, bro. We're all excited. We want to go to Afghanistan. And, we didn't go. And then we get back and we just start training nonstop because we knew Iraq was coming. And that by that point, I got switched to like May of 2002. I became an executive officer, the second in charge of company for Kilo Company. So, I'd been in the unit for well over a year deployment. I knew literally like almost every, there was, 800 and some odd Marines and sailors. I knew a good majority of the Marines, their names in the unit. Like I knew everybody's name in Kilo Company, the company I was in, and the other companies I knew. I was friendly with everybody. I got along with everybody. So, so my big job during that was like setting up a lot of training. And we had just gotten a new battalion commander, and he was already a combat vet. He was a company commander in the first Gulf War in Desert Storm, and he worked us to the bone, man. He was hard, but he was fair. He was no nonsense. He came down. He didn't care if you were officer enlisted. He would chew your ass. He had no problem with it, but he also was like, if you did something good, he praised you. Didn't care if it was a private right out of School of Infantry or like, the Battalion XO or something like that. He was no nonsense. So that summer of 2002, we literally went through our battalion's ammunition allotment like 2 or 3 times over that summer. Usually what that is you have an allotment for the fiscal year that the battalion shoots. We were told go out and train, and by September it was like 2 or 3 times over. We had already gone over the whole battalion's allotment. We were going out to the field every other week, shooting nonstop. I was going out with my buddy was the 81st platoon commander. I would go out with him and RSO, the range safety officer. Because there was, we were short people and stuff. And that's all we did. We trained. I lived in the field from like May 2002 to December of 2002. We were in the field nonstop. Just
for my edification, because like law enforcement trained, we do some move and shoot, we do some transition drill. And don't let me forget, Mo, but because I'm still at training now currently, and I was humbled very quickly where the instructor was talking about combat training and how shooting paper targets, he goes, I'll give you a gold star if you want one, but it has nothing to do with fucking combat shooting. So when you're out in the field training, I mean, I guess I don't know how you simulate war and what it's like to have people shooting at you, but like, is it just moving and shooting? Like, what does that look like?
It was a lot of fire and movement, fire and maneuver, because we did battalion size exercises. Like fire and movement was like, we would have like fire teams firing or squads, or like we would do like range 400, which is like any Marine that's listened to this that's been in has did it. It's I got my cats fighting in the background somewhere.
It's all good.
Where you would do like whole platoons moving under fire. We had snipers, mortars. It's not like law enforcement training where it's like, there's, if it's a lot, there's 10 guys on the line shooting, pistols or a couple rifle. Here you have like 150 dudes firing M16s, 240s, 249s, mortars. I mean, it's loud. Like it's you're trying to yell orders at people to move and stuff, like, especially as a platoon commander or a lieutenant, you're pulling the trigger a little bit more. You're just making sure like your guys are safe and dudes are moving up and engaging targets and stuff like that. And this is in the summer too, in 29 Palms in the high desert, the Mojave. So it's like, a cool day is like 91 degrees. Most days are like 100, 102. And you're kitted up, man. You got all your kit on, all your ammo, and you are just pulling the trigger. And that's all we did. We did that. We hiked. I told you before, I was in a company. We hiked every Friday. We hiked with, anywhere from, a light load would be like 50, 60 pounds, or to like, 80 to 100 pounds, like with mortars and machine guns. No heavy weapons, no 50 cals or anything, but like medium machine guns and stuff. So we were like I was in combat shape. Like I said, I was never a good runner. I sucked at it, but I mean, I could hike and I could move and, hike 10 miles, and we would do that, go into the attack, and I mean, the training was good. There was a couple of the senior staff NCOs and the battalion commander, and I think the battalion XO were my company commander was an artilleryman in the first Gulf War, but there wasn't many officers that had combat experience. There was a few staff in, so there wasn't a lot of guys when I mean, like my platoon sergeant did, and the company gunny did, they did, and then there was other people that didn't have any. So I wanted to go, but like the paper target one, like you get a gold star and everything like that. Like, but like this is something, Tyler, like we talked about, shooting paper targets is a lot different than being in combat, but like that's the basics, man. If you can do it good on paper targets, and then you can get like, keep yourself calm, like when real rounds are going, that shows that, you have the training. And our company commander, even our battalion commander, we were really big with like, he wanted like feedback. He wanted to make sure we were hitting our targets. Like my company commander, we went out, we would get bowling pins and put them out and when we would do like trench clearing and stuff, and you couldn't move, like guys would shoot it and they're like, oh, I got it. And we'd be like, dude, what are you doing? The guy's still standing. You got to shoot him. It's not 1 or 2 rounds. You got to shoot till the person goes down. We made it realistic as hell, and it wasn't like, and Mo, this too, like when you're on the range, when cops are on the range, they're like, oh, I don't have enough for qual. I got to go back to the line and get ammo. Like, if you didn't have ammo when you're like in combat, you're shit out of luck, bro. You're like in real world, you're grabbing off someone that's dead or something, or taking a dead guy's weapon. But like, it was a lot different than, the police world, where we went into the fight and that's all we brought. And I'll go more into that later on. So I was
real quick. Let me just explain, because now I brought it up, so I should explain it. So, and I'm not going to use the guy's name, but he actually didn't want to talk about himself, so other instructors did. But he was Green Beret for like 16 years, and then he was on like a nuclear warhead recovery team, because I guess back after 9/11, it was easier to steal warheads overseas. So anyway, he would go recover them, him and his team. And he said when he was operational, him and his team, they would shoot 1,000 pistol rounds and 2,500 rifle rounds per week, as that's just what they did to stay fresh. And and so we're like, okay, he's got some creds. And then that's when he started talking about the paper targets. And again, this is me coming off of just a couple months ago, where I was super happy, proud of myself. I got a distinguished weapons expert, so I'm kind of feeling myself a little bit. And he goes, Yeah, I'll give you a gold star referencing not to me in general, but just in, how they kind of just say, hey, paper targets is not the same as combat shooting. And what he's referring to is he goes, I don't give a shit about your trigger squeeze. He goes, because in combat, you're not going to be slow, smooth, trigger pull, boom. He's like, no, you're going to be slapping the fucking shit out of that trigger.
Yep. Yeah.
He goes, your grip and your platform and how you're shooting. He goes, that tells me more. And then he also was referring to our like pistols and stuff. He goes, you have a 4.5 second magazine, meaning that magazine should be empty in 4.5 seconds before you need a new one. He goes, because that's how fast you should be squeezing the trigger. Again, this was all combat oriented shooting. And I learned a lot.
Yeah, this is a thing, and I'm not sure if you guys saw this. I saw this a lot when I was a firearms instructor at the PD. Is there was, I'll be the first to admit it, like, and Mo, Tyler can tell you this, like, I don't think I'm the greatest at anything, and I try my best, I practice, but there was guys that can shoot really good, but man, their weapons handling sucked. Like, they would take like an hour to change a magazine and stuff like that, and I know what that guy's talking about. Like, it's like, okay, your weapon's empty. How fast are you getting getting it back up in the fight? And some guys are like, oh, look at my target. I'm like, yeah, okay, bro, but you took like 15 days to change your magazine, and you didn't bring enough rounds. So
we shot at you.
Yeah, many times over. Mo, Adam had one of the best things because some of the guys were giving Adam a little because we were in the same firearms class and they were giving him shit because he didn't shoot expert. He goes, and Adam just goes, well, every time I've been in combat, I survived and the bad guy didn't. And it was like, well, boom.
Yeah. I mean, and Tyler, you know this, and Mo, I know you know this. Like my goal is, you're always trying to get better at shooting. And like Mo and Tyler and I talked about that, like when we went to the firearms instructor course, like we hate the keeper of the badges. It's like everybody should be getting this training. Every agent, every cop should be going through this. Like I was in a small department and had a small tactical team. We had like 34, 35 people. It always varied, but everybody should have been through like the basic SWAT course, to know how to enter a room properly and carry a weapon. But like, cops don't care sometimes.
They do not.
Yeah. Well, actually, Adam, Mo's an instructor, and Mo, actually, if you want to chime in on that thought process, because what Adam's referring to is, I was like, every agency I've ever worked for has been like, oh, we already have one firearms instructor, we have one, and I'm like, who the fuck cares? Anybody, and I'm not saying everybody has to. I was actually strong to suggest everybody should go through it, but whatever. If you have 30 guys and 20 of them want to go, oh no, all my guys are, can shoot to the level of this or tactical training.
Yeah.
And this feeds into what I was going to ask him about also. But like when you start talking about the business of law enforcement, that's where it comes into play, because it's like, we're not going to pay for this many people to be trained like they should be, because like you say, everybody should be trained to properly enter a room. Everybody should be properly trained on how to hold a house, or, how to do the basic stuff that we're doing every day. We're sending people out, and when that alarm comes up and there's an open door, we don't call SWAT operators out to do a building search. It's the average cop that's out there doing the job. And when it comes to the shooting side of it, I find it absolutely despicable that we have cops that are just barely qualifying, but carrying guns and doing this job every single day, whereas we should all go to firearms school. And it doesn't hurt if everybody on your agency happens to be firearms instructors. Well, one, it gives you a bigger pool of instructors to go to when you need to train. And two, now you have just that much better shots out there that are doing this job and have the ability to pull their gun out and go to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I never understood. I got in trouble at a firearms training in June of 20. I remember, June of 2021. Excuse me. And I was talking over it, and my buddy Scott's a San Jose cop, and they just had an active shooter like a week or two prior, and I was talking to him about it. I'm like, did you wait? Who went in and cleared the building? He's like, yeah, I was one of the first patrol guys there. We went in. The guy had already shot himself, but I'm like, oh, and I was saying it sarcastically. I'm like, so you didn't wait for SWAT? He's like, he knew. He's like, no. And the patrol guys, and I brought that up at a training. And I'm like, hey, listen, my buddy Scott, he's a fellow grunt with me. We were overseas in Central America, and they just had the shooting of workplace violence, active shooter, and SWAT didn't go clear the building, patrol did. And I go, and couple of people got pissed off at me. I go, I've seen some of you shoot and you suck, and you guys really need to work on it. But here's the thing, though, that this is what pisses me off about it. Like, I always made myself available. I always said, if somebody wants to, I'll take time. I'll come. I'll take an hour of leave, or like I'll talk to the lieutenant to get the one of the ranges we can use, or we'll go after hours. I told people I'll work with you, but only one guy ever took me up on it. But I got a complaint about that because, they're like, oh, that's not nice to say. I'm like, I don't care. But you're in a business where you carry a gun. No one's saying you have to be at the level of a Delta operator, but you have to be able to put rounds on target.
You do. And you know what? You should feel confident enough to put rounds on target. And we have a ton of cops. Like, I remember as a trainer, I would especially get the ladies who would reach out to me and they'd be like, can I come out and shoot with you? And I'm like, the level of confidence is terrible. And so therefore, that's where if you've got these people up to the level of all being instructors, I can tell you, me personally, I had never shot a gun when I became a cop. Never picked a gun up. I'm the only cop in my family, so I was it. And I came out and I knew that shooting, that was going to be the thing that I wanted to make sure I focused on, because I never wanted to pull my gun out and go, well, I hope this works.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't want to throw it up to, caution. So not only did I pass the basic qual course, but when it came up and they said, anybody want to be a firearms instructor? I was like, right here. And I was terrified, but there was a level of confidence that came knowing that I had to go in there. And like I told Tyler, when we had to do our training, I was the only female. I went down to this little Podunk County here in Florida, and these dudes were not trying to coddle me at all. They wanted me to not be there. And they were like, all right, everybody's got to qualify first thing. And I'm like, oh, here it goes. And when I shot and I qualified, and I didn't just barely skim by, I qualified with some confidence. That did a lot for me, but it also laid it out to them that, like, I know what I'm doing, and there was a level of respect that came along with it. That's carrying these guns should be able to do that. And if they can't, then sorry if your feelings get hurt. If it's not nice when someone tells you should be able to do that.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me annoyed about it is, like, I was adamant. I always said, like, if someone needs help, I'll work with you. I have no problem. And I never was like, oh, I would never, like, when someone's shooting, I'm like, I was never a dick. I was never like, oh, you suck. I'm like, dude, you got to work on it, man. You got to work on it, because I've been to, like, shooting courses with, like, legit guys, and they're like, nah, dude, you got to get tighter. I'm like, Roger, understood. Because I know this guy had been there and done shit. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And that's the thing, like, well, that also goes to a big thing where you get people that run, like, ranges and stuff. Sometimes they're like, all right, my penis is this big, and, if you can't shoot like this, like, no, dude, like, a lot of times, like you said, like, people that are first time being a cop, they never shot, like, work with them,
Yeah.
But
well,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Mo, you hit the nail on the head with the business of law enforcement. That is the absolute thing. There's always the money issue, and then there's always, people don't want to do anything. Like, I used to get a lot of shit from people. Like, they said, oh, you always get sent to training and stuff like that. I go, no. I don't get sent to training. I go, the lieutenant gives me time. Okay, because I don't count because I was in the bureau most of the time. I go, but all those trainings I go to, I'm paying out of my own pocket. I'm going to courses that are like, I went to a 2-day course, $1,300. I went to a 1-day course, it was $800. Former Delta guys, like, the department gave me ammo sometimes, but I was using my own money for ammo too. I drove I went to North Carolina. I went, like, that's the thing. It's like, and I won't hear, like, guys would be like, well, I have a family. I go, well, yeah, I got a wife and kid too. All right, man. But I've been shot at before, so I know. I want to make sure my skill, like, I'm there, I'm ready.
Yeah, that's the thing that people, though, like to complain about what you do because they're unwilling to do it a lot of times. But I will say, like, when we're talking about the business of it, that I'm listening to you talk about all the training that you were doing, and the only thing I could think of is in the law enforcement world, it would never be entertained to do it at that level because of the money. Did you ever get any pushback from your uppers to be like, hey, you guys are spending 2-3 times over what your allotment is. You're dipping into money for next year's budget, or any of those complaints? Or was it because you guys were preparing for the 03 situation in Iraq? Was it just kind of like, okay, this is just the price of doing business?
No, that was supported from like the highest levels of the Marine Corps. They were like, because General Mattis was the division commander at the time, and General Conway was the 1 MEF commander. And, General Mattis was like the Marine Corps thing was go, like, this is the Marine Corps bread and butter. Go shoot. They don't, like, they had so much ammo already, and they had so much ammo already. That was like, they didn't care about stuff like that. They're like, just go shoot,
Yeah.
That we were supported with that. That was a huge thing. Because I remember, so it's since changed, but when I first came in, the Marine Corps does this big thing. It's called CAX, Combined Arms Exercise. And it was done there in 29 Palms, and it's still done now. It's called Integrated Training Exercise, ITX. So when we did it, this is pre 9/11. I did it in April of 2001. And, I remember, because you have to carry ammo for the machine gunners, because they go up to Machine Gun Hill and they're laying suppressive fire. And we were carrying like 14,000 rounds for a couple of 240s. And I remember they're like, you're never going to see that much ammo, even in combat. Okay. I'll go really quick. So when we rolled across the border, and I had a platoon, I had 57 guys, including myself. I had 3 Amtraks. Okay, I had a machine gun squad. I had a mortar section. I had javelins. I had an engineer squad with a 240. And that stuff. We had 160 millimeter mortar. I had 155 rounds. We had 24 AT4s. Those are like the 84 millimeter rockets, disposable. We had smalls, which the Marine Corps phased out. I don't remember the exact number, but we had it high in the double digits with that, like over 20. We had, I think, 6 or 8 javelins, and those at the time those were like $48,000 a pop. We had, I think, somewhere in over 35,000 7.62 rounds. 5.56 linked, probably like 20 or 30,000, and I don't even know how much 5.56 we had for our M16s. I mean, I had 14 mags. The standard loadout's like 7, but like, as Marines, we acquire more magazines. But then I had like 600 loose rounds in my backpack, and that was like our company SOP. Everybody had to carry loose rounds. So we had like each Marine had like 1,000 rounds on their person. We had so much C4, TNT. We had so much. I've never seen so much ammunition. And I remember each company would have to go out and guard this ammo supply point. And it wasn't just this one in Kuwait. There was a couple other. But I remember we were out there for like 2 days, maybe 2 or 3. I don't remember. 2 days. I'm telling you, I'm not lying. 24/7, there was trucks coming in, dumping ammo off the ships. Just coming in, dumping ammo off the ships. I've never seen so much ammo. Like, you get, it was just so funny how they're like, oh, you're never going to see this in combat. And then like, we're going to invade a country, and we just have more than we know what to do with,
Yeah.
I feel like that should be the way it should be.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it back to training, but you've kind of guided us into boots on the ground. But I just want to touch on a couple things. And again, I wasn't intending to draw a comparison between law enforcement and the military, and it's very different. I'm not trying to say that it should be the same by any stretch of the imagination. It should not be. But you were talking about how you were out there shooting with your guys in preparation, and you knew your team. And Mo, you can attest to this. And having worked for several different agencies, I can count on one hand how many supervisors would actually come out and train with us, or shoot with us, or do anything with us, tactics, firearms, whatever. Because and Mo, I'll let you speak on it. There was always a supervisor day where it was just for the supervisors, and the rest of us peons, we would have to go work with our teams or whatever. But again, I think you lose something when you do that. And there is one super. I'm hoping I can get him on Shiro. I don't know if he'll do it. He's still actively working, but he would take time out of his night, and he was a SWAT guy. He's also incredibly intelligent, but he would take us through buildings, and we would do clearing, and he would train with us, and he would talk through cases with us. We would do dry runs and saying, hey, robbery, burglary just occurred, 5 minutes. And then he would say, no, and we would do dry runs. We would do run throughs, and he would explain sodium lighting, and he would explain knowing there's so much. He would spend a lot of time with us, and it was something that he just did on his own. Needless to say, when I transferred out of that team, platoon, I don't know how, now I'm drawing a blank of what we called it. It did not get the same level of one-on-one time with any supervisor with experience. But again, just drawing that comparison.
I was lucky in Ramsey for a while, man, because the guy who's the chief now was a sergeant and a lieutenant when I was there, and he was a former scout sniper in the Marine Corps. He did Panama, and he was big. He was always there, always training, and the guy who retired as the captain, he was actually my first FTO as a sergeant, and I still keep in touch with him too. They were always there training with us. They were all on the tactical teams too, but they all shot with us, and they, like the chief now, he was deadly, like with a pistol and a rifle. He knew his shit. And there's a better group of supervisors there now than when I was a patrol guy and even a detective. Like a lot more guys will shoot with their guys. So because the old chief was actually a really good shot, and the old captain was really, really good. Like he would always when we would have quals, he would always be like if we had the Q target with a box, he would try and get all his shots in there, or he would try and do everything from the 15 in a headshot. He was and I'm like, hey man, he knows how to shoot, and but again, it's some people, I get some people are embarrassed of it, but dude, just go at I'm going to venture to say both you, Tyler, you and Mo, even if you had a supervisor come and they weren't the best shot, but if they were working, putting the time in, you get respect for them. They're like, all right. And if they're asking hey, I'm always pulling this at 25. Can you help me out? I think that's awesome when someone knows their limitations and they ask for help,
I just want to, he was saying, when I first came into law enforcement for us, we actually trained as a platoon/squad. So your squad would go with your sergeant, your corporal. So you would all go to training. You'd spend 3 days in training. They would pull our street crimes unit. They would cover our area so that we were all out there at the same time. There was so much better camaraderie, and there was so much more respect for the supervisors because you did get to see them. You did, and in truth, it made sense because they knew who their strong people were. If if shooting wasn't their strength, I would say I preferred someone who knew their limitations and surrounded themselves around people who augmented them better and made them better in their role in that situation. But that was done away with probably after I had been at the sheriff's office for probably about 5-7 years, somewhere thereabout. To me, that was some of the best training because you got to train with people that you were going to be going out with. And it made sense because just like what you're talking about, that when you trained with your platoon and your people you're deploying with, it gives you that ability to know who's going to be good in that role. We had usually our lieutenant would go with one of our squads and train as well, and they would rotate. So we got a chance to see, and I've mentioned it in previous episodes, one of my best platoon lieutenants was a lady who literally, she had no qualms about getting into it with us, whether it be getting into a fight, getting into a shooting, responding to a robbery, whatever it was, and doing a lot of that one-on-one training like you saw with Shiro. She was just like that. So I think that creates a space where people have a better respect for you. Now, that leads me into saying you said when you were leading Marines into combat, you were 29. Do you think that, twofold question, that your Marines had better respect for you because you did do training with them like that? And do you think that allowed you to grow as a leader with being out there with them?
Oh, absolutely. I think being 29, I was a little bit older, and was it actually expected to always be out there training with the Marines, especially as a lieutenant and stuff. You were always expected to be out there. But I remember, I was telling you, my buddy Matt, he's still in. He's a full bird. He was the 81st platoon commander. He was a prior enlisted guy. He was a mortarman as an enlisted man, and I learned a lot from him. Him and my buddy Bill, both he's still in. Those two guys taught me how to be a Marine. They're both prior enlisted Marines, and they're absolute studs, stellar Marines. But my buddy Matt one time, he's like, hey, can you come out and RSO the range? Because like we were going crazy in the summer. Everybody was out. And I remember the platoons at the time I was in XO and I didn't have a platoon. So I did a lot of training and I would bounce around. But he's like, hey, can you come out and help RSO the range so my guys can shoot? I'm like, yeah, sure thing. And I already knew, I knew the mortarman, 81s is usually full of complete degenerates, and that is in the best way. I mean, I could have invaded a country with them. But we got out there and there was a unit doing CACs at the time and it was 2nd LAR and they're like, hey, we'll put you under our RSO so, you don't have to worry. We're like, okay. So my buddy Matt's like, well, Matt, he goes, Mac, you can just hang out. I'm like, well, I'm still a fucking Marine. So, and I remember because, I still talk to a couple of those guys and I remember, and, there's 8 tubes in an 81's platoon and so I start helping breaking out ammo and carrying everything like that. And I remember my buddy John Hancock, he was an awesome Marine, stellar Marine. He was actually a reservist of mine too when he was up here, but he's back in Texas. He makes knives now. His shit's amazing. But I've known him for like almost 25 years now. But I remember he's like, yeah, sir, we always liked you. We always knew you were pretty cool with us, but you definitely gained a lot of credibility that day that when you were sitting out there breaking ammo and helping run ammo to the guns and stuff like that and shit. And I'm like, well, I go last time I checked, I got an Eagle Globe and Anchor on my chest too. So, I mean, that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
You just do it. I mean, even I remember that thing, my buddy Matt's like, hey, listen, we're going to shoot, but I'm a first lieutenant at this time. And so is my buddy Matt. He's like, hey, can you mind being a road guard? And so that's so you make sure no one goes into your impact area and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, bro, I'll sit out there. It was me and this kid. I forgot his name. He was a comm Marine. He was awesome. I'm like, yeah, we'll sit out there. I'll sit out there, bro. What else am I going to do? Sit here with my thumb, take a guy off that's going to actually have to shoot this tube literally in 6 months in combat. And he may not, he may need more training on it. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I just sat out there, me and this Lance Corporal under a caminet with a radio, you're just helping out.
I think that a lot of times our supervisors forget, like the old cliche of you forget where you come from. I know, like Tyler was saying, with our agency, we used to have, and I don't know if they still do it now because I'm not there, but I will say, we had supervisor days, and the supervisors, when they stopped doing the platoon and the squad training, the supervisors would come out. They would just be supervisors, segregated to shoot. And even so far as all the way up, you would have just only certain supervisors. So like the sheriff and the colonels wouldn't shoot with anybody who was below a certain rank. And I'm going, well, why? And we have a PT course to run. Well, they would have certain days that they would run the PT course because they were allowed to. And I'm like, why? If you're running the PTO course and you're telling me that I've got to run it at a certain level, I want to see you do it too. And if you can't, then I'm going to ask you why you're going to hold me to the same standard. And that goes across the board for anything.
Yeah.
To me, that says so much more that you're like, yeah, put me on the grunt work, whatever it is, because you haven't forgotten where you came from.
Yeah, I remember we used to do like the company PFTs, and I told Tyler knows this, man. I never was a good runner. Like I was like the anomaly in Marine Corps officers. Like I was slow. Most Marine, you think of Marine Corps officers, you think of these guys that are like they can run like jackals and stuff like that. No, not me, man. And the Marines would always make fun. They're like, oh, sir, all right. They go, listen, if you get in before Lieutenant Mac, you're safe and everything like that. And it was like, but I used to bust them. I'm like, okay, guys, well, I guess I'll just lead the next hike on Friday. Like, no, because like I can hike really good. But I mean, it was a good, like they know. I said, listen, man, you guys know I'm not the best runner, but I'm out there trying it. And that's all that mattered. Just like, like I told Tyler the first time, don't be a bitch, man. Just get up in there and do it. Do it.
I love it. I need to put that on a shirt. I'm sure it's already out there. All right. Sorry. We're going to get back on track. So, because again, I just want to walk through this a little bit. It's really for my own edification. And also just, people I talked to, they had questions. So from the last episode we did, but again, it's just hard for someone who's never done it, never been around it to wrap their head around it. So you've done all this training. You're with your guys. Boom. You get orders. You're on the C-17, whatever you were on.
No. So there's a little bit of, so it gets a little, this is where it gets a little like, this is the tragic part almost, you can say.
Yep.
So in December, we get a drop of we get like 8 new lieutenants, second lieutenants into the battalion, and I get moved to the 3 shop. That's the operations. So like, but there's already a lieutenant there, and then my buddy, another buddy of mine who's a little bit senior, he gets there. So we have an overage of lieutenants. So I mean, it works out good, but it doesn't. When I can tell you, I'm like, it still bothers me to this day. I'm not gonna lie. So my battalion commander like pulls me in. I'm like, I go there with the XO and everything, and like we had a very good relationship. The officers, the lieutenants with the battalion commander and XO, like, you know, a very good relationship. And I go in there and like I'm like, I go to Major Baker at the time. I'm like, sir, am I getting fucking moved to 1-7? He's like, let's go talk to the colonel. So I go in there, you know, and you know, and they're like, yeah, Mac, you're getting moved. I'm like, it was like a movie. I'm like, permission to speak freely. They're like, yeah. I go, this fucking sucks, gentlemen. I go, the boss is like, listen, I didn't want to do it. You know, this is coming from regiment. They need officers there. You know, you've been around the block. You know what you're doing. And I go, is this because I'm a shitbag? They're like, no. And you know, you think, am I a shitbag and stuff? But I remember like the day, it was a Monday, I had to go report, and you know, the Colonel McCoy's like, he's like, come here first, and then I'll walk you down. And me and this guy Rick Nee, he goes, I'll walk you down to 1-7 to the CO. And I don't think many colonels would have done that. They would have been like, just report to 1-7. You know, my battalion commander walked me down there and, you know, introduced me to the colonel and everything like that, you know, made sure I was taken care of. And it hurt, you know, because like I said before, like I knew everybody in 3-4. I knew all these guys. Like Kilo Company, I wanted to go to war. Like I say to this day, we could have invaded any country in the world with that company alone and conquered it within a matter of days. That's how good those Marines were, and that's how tight everybody knew each other and stuff. But you know, I was, you know, I was in the 3 shop, but I got moved to be a platoon commander again. So I got command of troops, which was awesome. Like if I went over to Iraq in 3-4 in the 3 shop, I would have been like just monitoring the radio at like 03 in the morning and being like, yeah, okay, nothing's going on, you know?
Yeah.
So I get there and it's like, you know, it's a little bit of a culture shock, and it's like, but like you said, it's like, we knew we were going. Nobody knew what day we were going. This is January. And it's like, I remember I go in literally one day and we're sitting there, and like the company commander comes out and he's like, I think it's tonight, guys. I think we're out. Make sure everybody gets their sea bag and their packs are ready to go. So I'm like, oh shit. Like, I'm like, so I had to drive to my little house and drop my car off, and then somebody came and picked me up, and you know, that's it. You know, then I didn't see that place till 6 months later. You know, we get there, we're staging on like the parade ground, and then, you know, we're driving down the March Air Force Base, and we sit there for like a day and a half. And it's not like in the movies where you're like, yeah, we're loading up on C-17s. I'm like, nah, I went to war on a Delta flight. You know, it was commercial. You know.
Okay, didn't know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, they fly us on Delta, and I flew home on American. I remember we flew out there Delta to Kuwait. You know, we landed in Germany with a layover. Did that, and then flew to Kuwait City International Airport, KCIA, and then we get moved to like the middle of the desert, and you know, shit's real. We get in late, and this Air Force security forces, he goes, you know, we're under, I don't remember what threat condition. He's like, I just need everybody to get off the buses, the plane as quick as possible, get to your buses, and there you go. We get there, we get to like these circus tents they set up in the middle of the desert. And, you know, we rack out for the night, we wake up, and then it's like, all right, so the next day, like we because there was a big gas threat. So first thing we do is the NBC officer goes over make sure everybody knows we put our filters on. I think we got issued ammunition like I don't think we got a lot of ammunition, but I think we got a couple mags just in case. I don't remember exactly. We may have. Maybe just for security, because like there was like, it wasn't like we were in an enclosed area. We were like in the middle of the desert, you know, and we would go, you know, PT out there and stuff like that. So, I mean, there was a big threat, you know, for, I guess, Al Qaeda they were worried about. And then, you know, we sat in the desert, we sat in Kuwait for like a little over a month and a half when, you know, just PT and training. We do some ranges, go out to the Udari range. I was getting to know the company, the Marines, which was good. It was a good build, a good like camaraderie building time. We got our first mission. I planned that out. I was doing like intel briefs. And then I remember I think it was March 16th or March 17th of 2003. I remember I'm a super light sleeper, and we had like these hardwood floors, we were sleeping on isomats in our sleeping bags. The company commander left at like 3 a.m. or something, and he came back in, and then it was quiet. Then he's like, all right, Charlie, company, get up. It's time. Pack your shit. We're moving. So we packed our shit. We broke down the camp. Like we were burning all this wood furniture, and our Amtraks were loaded up and shit. And I think we'd issued out ammo like a day before. I don't remember. We moved to this assembly area, and I think we issued out more ammo, and we were getting ready. And I remember then like the Scud missiles were coming overhead, because this was like the 18th or 19th. I don't remember the exact days. And I remember like the CO's like, he's like, I think we're crossing tomorrow sometime. So like I went to bed that night. I didn't really sleep, but I remember I remember our Marine artillery was just pounding Iraq, just pounding. You heard jets all night, and they were using RAP rounds, rocket assisted projectiles. So you just hear all night. I mean, I'm not talking like, for like 10 minutes. I'm talking like 6 hours straight, just pounding the living shit out of Iraqi targets. And it's just like, holy shit, this is real, dude. And, and it's like, you're sitting there, and like, I didn't get much sleep that night. And because I'm like, shit, man, I gotta lead these guys in combat. Like, I'm like, fuck, I hope I don't. My big thing was like, besides getting killed or losing a guy, is like, I hope I don't look like an idiot and they make fun of me, or like I trip on a rock or something. That was always a big thing.
Like,
yeah.
Well, hold on, I want to bring it back because it's. I'm sorry, it's not funny because I'm learning a lot already.
No, it is, because that was like a big concern of mine.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to clip. I went to war on a Delta flight. It was fucking hilarious to me. You're totally diminished. Maybe I've been on more C-17s than you have at this point.
You probably have. In all honesty, I've only been on like 2 or 3 in my life.
Oh
That's
my God, I've been on like 50. All right, anyway, you're not missing anything. It was awful. I would have been flying around in Delta. Anyway, so. And then instead of worried about getting shot and killed or losing a guy, you're like, I hope I don't trip and fall. I've been visiting these things, Adam, damn it.
or a big thing was shitting my pants. Like if I get scared and I shit my pants, because I guarantee you there would have been, I read stories about guys at Iwo Jima and stuff, they were scared shitless and they crapped their pants. Like, okay, I know it happens, but Marines being Marines, no matter what rank, they're going to be like, hey, remember when Lieutenant Mac shit his pants in that gunfight? You'll be like, fuck,
I tell people who run marathons, they're like, oh, I'm training for this ultra marathon. I was like, so you shit your pants then? And it just deflates them. So well, running a marathon and going to fight combat is a little different, but I hear what you're saying. I couldn't imagine trying to fight and having shit my pants.
Oh, I thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
So, like a neurological, our brains can't wrap their heads around like the enormity of war, so we get fixated on the smaller things.
Yeah, no shit. I'm dying. All right, so I'm sorry. All right, so now because this we're getting to the point to the kind of like the thought. It's more just your perspective and your thought process, which you're doing a fucking great job. So now you're all right, crossing in, guns ready, all the training. Hopefully, it's been enough. And I didn't realize you would actually switch platoons, but at least you had a little time to get to know those guys.
I switched the whole battalion, man. That's what killed me. Wow. I switched the whole battalion.
Yeah, but now you're there. Shit's real. And were you like clearing house? Like, what was your role, I guess, or your company's role? And I'm sorry if I'm not speaking correctly.
No. Like the first day we had to take the Azubar pumping station, and my platoon was designated as the main effort for that. So like everybody's area, like all the other battalions and divisions in the Army had like different things. So we took the Azubar pumping station the first day. We didn't get any contact. But it was like surreal. I remember because I think I told you before, like I remember we had like satellite imagery, and the satellite imagery had like measurements of like some of the facilities. So I did that, and I measured like the distance between the manifold and the pump out. The manifold I think the pumps and then the pump house. There's 3 different things: the manifold first, then the pumps, and then the pump house. And I measured the distance, and I'm like, I set up and I made training out to it and stuff. And we get there, I'm like, well, this is bullshit. Our satellites, they definitely didn't give me the right measurements, because like what I had from the pump, from the pumps to the pump house was like, I remember it was like 250 feet or like 250 meters, but it was like 75 feet. It was like everybody's getting ready to run and stuff. They're like, hey, I think that's the pump house right there.
Like,
it was, I'm like,
doing it live. Fuck it, doing it live.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. They're like, yeah. And then here's the best part. So so the Azubor pumping station was a gas oil separation plant. It's where they separate the gas from the oil. And, you can tell those in the United States because there'll be a tower with a flame burning, and that's all the excess burning off. In Iraq, they don't have towers like that. They just burn it on the ground, because they don't have the same restrictions there. So, and that produces a shit ton of bad chemicals. And there was supposed to be a flyover by some Harriers, and they were supposed to give us the go, no go criteria. If the flame was off, we weren't supposed to go because they were going to be worried that it was be gases. Yeah, the fucking Harriers never told us that. We get there, there's no flame, and thank God, like, nobody died from, it's like really dangerous gases. And like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, did pilot fucking, this is why I always bust pilots' balls. I'm like, thanks a lot, bro. Was there a cloud that day? You couldn't do anything. Yeah.
All right. So I guess, okay. So then we do that. So it's actually, I'm glad we're doing this, because I had a lot of questions, and you're leading me in directions so that I didn't know we were going to go in. So you're getting a lot of trial exposure, like you're getting geared up, and then you're moving, and then you're expecting a firefight. And I guess there wasn't one. So, but you're moving as a unit. And so this is something that I've been talking about in training now, is like, we train till the threat is down, but it's like, okay, that's a threat, one threat. It's like the fucking chaos. Let's just talk about just like an active shooter. The fucking chaos after that's down. Like, we don't ever plan or train for that. And they're like, and one of the instructors finally just said, yeah, you really can't, because it's going to be a fucking shit show. And you can train all you fucking want, but agencies have plans and ideas and thoughts, but you don't fucking know.
No, you don't. And you just hope, like, you hope that, the Marines do the right job. And it's like the same with the cops. You hope you have like a good leadership there that know what the fuck's going on. And, it's like, I remember we get through and we're like, we captured a bunch of dudes. Like, we found some dude that had his head cut off with a hacksaw, which was always a cute sight. And, then we're like, we did what Marines did. I called up to hire to the company commander and like, all right, we're holding this position. So we just started digging in and fortifying, getting ready for the next fight. That's all you do, is you get ready for the next fight until you go home, But I remember we dug fighting positions that night. And I remember to my platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Disbro, I'm like, hey, I'm going to close my eyes for 5 minutes. Just wake me up if anything happens. I just got to close my eyes. I slept for like 5 or 6 hours. I didn't wake up till the morning. I'm like, oh, did anything? He's like, no, sir, we were good. I'm like, why didn't you wake me? He's like, you were worn out. I just let you sleep. I remember I slept in this hole, but I was slept in like an L shape. My legs were literally, all you could see from the hole was just my 2 boots hanging. That's how I was so fucking tired. I just woke up. I slept like that and woke up. That's how exhausted I was.
That's wild.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Kind of going back when you were saying like, okay, you do all this prep and this training, and then you go into these situations and it's not what you expected and what happened. And the only thing I can equate it back, so forgive me, I wasn't in the military or a Marine, because I know that Tyler says that he messes with.
Oh, there's a difference.
Yeah. I know, I wasn't trying to mess with you.
Damn right there is.
When I was a training officer, what I can equate it to, I could talk to the cadets in the classroom, we could do scenario-based training, and then we would get the call. So usually what I would do with my cadets is we were headed to the call, we would be talking through. If we get there, this is what we're going to do. If we get there, this is what we're going to do. Kind of doing that what-if training while we're getting there to kind of get their mindset. In these situations, do you have time when you're getting these orders like, okay, this is what we're going to do if this happens or this happens? Or
Yeah. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you can do a really quick frago. where you'd be like, all right, hey, like I remember like we had to take some buildings sometime and stuff like that. And you're like, all right, maybe you do like a quick terrain model or something like that. Like first squad, you're going to do a support by fire position. Second, third squad, you're going to, second will be the main effort. Third, you'll be held in reserve and such, something like that. You would plan like a little couple things here and there. You would try your best to do it, and it's the same as being a cop though. Like sometimes you just can't run right into a situation. You go into like a domestic and you're the first one there and it's like, some 6'7" dude, like former ball players beating his wife and you're like, like you're waiting for like Tyler to get there so you can be backed up because if it's like if I'm going in or Mo's going in, we're going to have to end up shooting the guy because I mean, I'll get maybe one hit on the guy and, I'll break his hand from when he punches me in the face, because he's so massive and shit. But like, it's the same. It's like, all right, we know we got one guy in there. You're waiting. It's like with active shooter training, you're like, like I know like they've gotten to more where they want you to like usually wait till you have a couple more. But if it's like you're the first one there and like, they want you to go in. But sometimes it's like, all right, we're here. We're at the school. All right, Tyler and Mo, you go this way, Mac and Adam and John will go this way and check this hallway and stuff. Let's keep the radio open and shit like that. It's like you just do it like a quick warning order.
Yeah. So let me ask you this because I want to be cognizant of time. Did your company ever get into, again, I want to say firefight, but you're talking about fucking missiles being launched for 6 hours. I guess what I'm saying is closer quarters. I don't know how to phrase it right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I mean, we got into a couple gunfights here and there, not as bad as like some other units.
Yeah.
Like my buddy Matt, who was the 81st platoon. I mean, they literally did hand to hand. They were bayoneting dudes, a group of Sudanese mercenaries. I mean, they were fucking. They were like up close and personal, man. I mean, there was like, I mean, we had, again, like I said before, man, I always wish I had like more combat experience and shit like that. But then it's like, I look back, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I'm, most people think I'm crazy, but like, I think I'm pretty normal actually. And I never lost any guys. So, I mean, like,
yeah.
What if I went through and lost dudes or like, got my leg blown off or something like that? Or like, if I got killed.
Yeah, no. Yeah. That's not my train of thought. And, I wasn't trying necessarily to get into, tell me about all the dudes you killed. That's not really where I was going with it. It was more like, so after that, right? Were you guys briefing? Like what did that look like for you as a lieutenant, whatever it was?
Everything was like really ad hoc up until we got to Baghdad, really. We were like, okay, we're gonna stay here for the night. Let's clear these buildings out. Or like, get to a gunfight. All right, let's set up security, send out some patrols. It was like, it wasn't like, I mean, I did like one patrol order. I remember they wanted, like, it was a pretty slow day. Yeah. But like, like when I was in Afghanistan, like, they would set, because it was more, the battalion was based out of somewhere and the companies were in fixed positions. They had like little camps and bases. And Iraq, we didn't have that till May, well, to end of April, really, till after like major combat operations were over. We were moving, we were living out of our tracks. That was it. We never set up like a base and put some sandbags out until like a month and a half later. And then we would like set, like, we'd be like, okay, I remember because we were on the Jeff in southern Iraq. And we'd be like, all right, we're going to hit these sectors today. And then, first squad will hit these and second squad will hit these sectors and stuff like that. These are your points you call out and stuff like that. It was a little more what you would think of. Like during the invasion, it was like pretty much everything was like ad hoc. We're like, just driving along. Oh, someone's shooting at us to the right. All right, let's turn to the right and start engaging them. That's it, basically,
So I can only compare to law enforcement because, again, I was never in the military, come from a military family. But so, after action, there's a whole brief, there's all this time and you got to talk and I'm assuming none of that was happening. So, but maybe some small version of it.
Yeah, we did it sometimes. We would do after actions and stuff like that. Yeah, because like, we had like a lot of newer guys, so we would try and do after actions and stuff. But you also have to like, you're like, okay, like, you got to like realize like, oh, we should really do an after action, but like, oh, the guys haven't slept in like 36 hours. So like, why don't we get dug in and we'll try and get an after action tomorrow before we step or something like that. Let's like guys like rack out and, and get something to eat. Like dudes are like burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you kept that you kept that pace for how long until because I'm assuming you had to fly back.
I know we wore mop suits for 22 days. And then, yeah, oh my God, I remember that when I first took that off, like, holy shit, I'm surprised my crotch didn't melt the Amtrak I was in. It was so bad. I remember I was like, holy shit. I didn't shower for the invasion. I went 72 days without a shower. Yeah. You accept the filth. You just accept it. Yeah. So like maybe the middle of April or something, maybe. Yeah. Once we got to Anna Jeff, like the second or third week of April, we went out of Baghdad. Then when we got to Baghdad, it slowed down. Like we were at one of the palaces. So we were doing patrols from there, and we were there. I don't remember how long we were there for. Then we moved to Anna Jeff, and it was like, we were operating out of an agricultural college there. So we had like, we were setting up a base of operations. Like the battalion headquarters was there. I think weapons company was there. Charlie company, which I was in, was there. And I think Bravo and Alpha were at different positions. So that's how we had it set up. But like each place had like, we had fixed structures like because we were in these. So it was more like what you would think of like in like Vietnam, guys were a bit like out of a base and going out and patrol from there. So, we actually had like, we set it, you can leave your like sleeping bag out. Like each night if we got to sleep where like you would roll out, like, I don't even remember how like nights not even rolling out my sleeping bag, just sleeping in a Ranger grave with a poncho liner on me, not even taking my boots off or anything. That's if you got sleep that night, if you weren't moving or fighting or something like that. But like once we got to on the Jeff, it was like a little more relaxed per se. And it was weird because at this time in Iraq, it was weird because they had us going out on patrol in soft covers. Like we were wearing our flak and all our kit, but like I remember going out, I had a boonie cover on. Like they wanted us to show that like we were peaceful to the Iraqis. And this was there until I was there. And then 6 months later, man, that's when like early 2000, like really late 2003, early 2004 is when it really fucking, you weren't going out. You were going out with a helmet and everything on. I never went back to Iraq with the Marine Corps. That way I went with the State Department. Yeah. But like it was, the Wild West after that. It was a fucking dangerous place. It was dangerous when we were there, but I always say like Fallujah, Ramadi, those places, Sadr City in Baghdad, those were fucking deadly places in like 05, 06, 07, 08. That was bad, man. Those were bad places. You're fighting an insurgency. You're fighting guys not in uniforms, they're in with the population, and people have cell phones, like, more than likely they're telling Mohammed down the street that, an American patrol's coming, like to, detonate the IED in a few seconds. But like, you just can't just go out and waste these dudes. And that was it was like, I remember like our rules of engagement when we crossed the border was anybody in a military uniform you were clear to engage. Anybody with a weapon, you were clear to engage. If they're trying to surrender, that you don't engage them. But like, we had very liberal rules of engagement compared to like later on in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, it was like we had free fire zones, like where they're like, okay, the bad guy's here, just fucking, blow buildings up and shit. Like, and this was the beauty of the Marine Corps, is that the Marine Corps just didn't go out and just waste people. The discipline is so instilled from top down, and just the history is like, guys knew, like Marines were like, all right, there's bad guys there. They're like, nah, no one's got any weapons and stuff like that. Like, I'm like, did we kill him? I'm like, no, we don't know, man. What if it's just a guy with his kids? You wouldn't want that if somebody invaded the United States and they're like, you're walking down the street with your kid and then like, I'm just going to get some naan bread, and then you just get a round through your head. So the Marines were I mean, like, I always say this, and they always talk about like World War II is the greatest generation, and I'm not taking away from that, but I'm like, you have to remember all these kids that fought in the GWAT, the Global War on Terrorism, they all volunteered to be there, and they knew what they were getting into, and these are some of the greatest kids, the greatest generation, man. They knew like the shit with the IEDs and everything, and they volunteered and they went into this and they did this. Like, I mean, there was no draft when World War II, there was a draft. Korea, there was a draft. Vietnam, there was a draft. There was no draft during this. Guys volunteered. They volunteered. They go knowing that they could get killed or get more than likely get maimed. And yeah, and I always say this, like, and that's when I'm like, oh, young generation suck. I'm like, I don't know, man. I was there with kids that were like some of the smartest kids I ever met and some of the bravest kids I ever met. And that's why I take offense when people are like, oh, the military, blah blah, and this and that. Like, it's, we're not going to get to the politics they're like used for corporations. No, but like in the Marine Corps, man, even the Army and the other services, like these are people that volunteered. Like, I mean, especially when you're a grunt in the Army or the Marine Corps, you volunteer knowing I'm like, oh, I'm going to go sit in a shitty little village in Afghanistan for 7 months or 13 months if I'm in the Army or something. And, maybe I may have electricity or maybe I may have internet connection, Yeah. And these kids are just volunteering doing it, keep doing it. I mean, like I was an idiot and I came back in the reserves and went to Afghanistan. I was clearing out and I'm like, fuck, I feel guilty. I haven't gotten to Afghanistan,
I think we're gonna have you back for Afghanistan. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Adam. We're gonna have to have you on a couple more times.
Yeah, I don't care. I love talking. I'll talk to you. Listen, man, I'll talk all the time, and we got to have Mo though. Mo's part of the crew now.
No, absolutely. Well, Mo has a question for you.
So I just want to wrap my head around this because you're saying that you're moving for 72 days. You guys had to stop in the shower, and he was asking you, "Are you guys doing after actions?" And I'm thinking, in that time frame, even if you are doing after actions, are you at a place where you can pivot and do things differently based on result or information from these after actions?
Yeah, because we're
in boxes to say we did it.
Yeah, because the after actions were very informal. I mean, we had to type after actions after we got back in the States, but the after actions, it was more like it was at such a micro level, like at the fire team squad or platoon level, even company level, like, oh, okay, hey, we did this, but like next time, let's make sure let's make sure the guns are up next time, like, the machine gun squad or the machine gun section's ready to rock, before we move in and shit, and make sure, let's make sure the radios are working this time, or, I'm just using, make sure like you change your batteries on your optics and your NVGs. Those are night vision goggles. The Army calls them NODs, night optical devices. So I'll tell you this though, speaking of NVGs, I remember and talk to anybody that did the invasion in 2003. There was one night, I think it was in March. Man, that was the darkest night of my life. I've never seen a night that dark. We got hit with a sandstorm for like 8 hours. We didn't move or anything. We had guys, when they were outside the tracks patrolling, there was 2 guys that would go outside the track, and one guy would keep his hand on the track and the other guy would have his arm on the guy. So that's how strong this sandstorm was. Like, you literally couldn't see more than a few feet in front of you, if that. But I remember that night, man, it was so dark, like even our NVGs barely worked. Thank God the Amtracs had thermals, because we were able to see like dudes sneaking up on us and they were able to light them up. But I remember that was the darkest night of my life. I will never forget that. And I got stuck in mud. Iraq has some of the most strongest mud in the world. I got my left leg stuck in mud. I had someone pull me out. And I remember trying to peel the mud off as it went all upside. It was like wax. It was pulling my hair out. That's how strong it was. Like, someone's like, "Are you hurt?" I'm like, "No, I'm trying to get this wax off me. It's pulling off all my hairs. I'm being a bitch right now."
Oh my God, I love it. So I know it's a weird pivot, but I do want to round it out because we've been going for a little over an hour, and I am serious, Adam. We're gonna have you back. I have
absolutely, bro. You know that we got to do one in person. That's what we need to do.
That's next. Well, hopefully I'll be done traveling and training and all this bullshit. But you are switching gears, and you've had several different careers. We talked about most of them, but I'm interested in two things. Explain what you explained to us prior to this. You were talking about, because you're in Jersey now, and you said there's like a 3-tiered system for school security, because we're doing a little mini series on school security, and
Yes.
I've never heard it broken down this way, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So okay. It's so like there's a regular certified police officer in New Jersey, and then they have what they're called SLEO, Special Law Enforcement Officers 1 and 2. They are like they're not in the schools really. They're just like they'll help like a lot of the beach towns, the shore towns will have like a lot of SLEO ones that'll help with traffic and giving out parking tickets and stuff like that. SLEO 2s are like cops, but they're only cops for that shift. They can't carry a weapon outside of duty. They have full police powers. I think they can't do DWI or something. I don't remember exactly. I don't remember the exact thing, but they can like they have full arrest power and stuff to an extent, I think. And then so what I'm becoming now is it's called a SLEO 3, Special Law Enforcement Officer 3. They hire retired guys. You know, your certification is good 3 years from your retirement, and I retired in July of 2022. So mine's coming up. So I'm like, maybe I should just do this, you know? So what they do is they put them in the schools. Not every town has them, but like you are a police officer. You have full police powers and everything there, but your job is to make sure the kids in the school and the teachers are safe. That's it. You're not there doing traffic. You're not, you know, they'll let them go into class and read a story and stuff and stuff, but like you're not there and you're not like, you're there as like, if there's a parent being a problem, you know, the principals handle it. But if they're getting out of hand, you get involved. But like your job is there to thwart an active shooter, like, or if somebody comes in and trying to take a kid, or like a disgruntled parent comes in and tries. That's it. They're retired guys, but you're like. You're a cop again, basically. But you know, I can carry because I'm a retired guy. But like, we don't like our guns will stay there at the headquarters. You go in, you put your uniform on, you get your gun, and then you take the car and you go out to the school you're assigned to. And you know, your job is to stand there when the kids come and when the kids leave. You know, be visible and let them see you.
See, and I think that's great. And we were talking a little bit about, you know, school security, and we're just kind of started delving into it, but there's so much more to it, because you're going to be interacting with the kids, you're going to be interacting with the teachers, interacting with the parents, getting familiarizing yourself with the school. And again, you know, I'm all about trying to find solutions to what is turning into a nationwide issue. And Adam, we referenced, we didn't dig into it, and we are in future episodes, but you know, you had Columbine, you had the FSU shooting, you had Uvalde County, you had Sandy Hook, you had Stoneman Douglas, you know, and there's actually a lot more that are out there. I wasn't aware. I started researching it. So unfortunately, it is a rising problem. And the biggest thing is like, how do you solve it and how do you figure that out? I think that's just an interesting solution. And Mo, go ahead. You have a comment?
Yeah, it sounds to me like a little bit when he's breaking it down, we have, for us, it would be like the ones that handle traffic, or like our community, like the CSOs. They don't have arrest powers. They don't do anything. Then we have our reserve 2s, which are the people who they can make arrests, but only if they're with a fully sworn law enforcement officer. And then you have your reserve 1s, which are fully sworn law enforcement officers. But we don't use our reserve 1s in schools. So that's where it's a little bit of a different caveat. I find that to be very, very interesting. My question to you, when you said like, yeah, they'll have you in the classrooms and that kind of thing, twofold. Is it from this level of law enforcement there? Do they cover from elementary school all the way to high school?
Yeah.
Do they also deal with kids that are, you know, like I know at my son's elementary school, the resource officer per se, he will act if they have a kid that's going crazy in a classroom or something.
Yeah. Because you have to take the school resource officer training, and I know like the middle school and the high school guys, those guys will have to do a report once in a while, not very often, but like if something happens, you know, let's say I'll use the middle school one, like, you know, like like a boy or girl sends a nude to each other and they find out about school, like we'll do the initial report, but then the juvenile bureau will follow up with that. So, I mean, but we have full arrest powers and all that stuff. You know, you have to do all the use of force training, all this, you know, all the beautiful stuff being a cop again. But like I said, I don't have to go answer calls, like go to a domestic or a CPR in progress. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. And I think honestly, it's just interesting because again, every state and sounds like every county really and city, they all have their ways of trying to approach this. I'm always fascinated on the different methodologies for each school district. But Adam, before we get to wrapped up, I asked this question on the last episode to Mo and BJ, and it's something that has come up. It's a thought process, and I've heard both sides. But what do you think of allowing either teachers or school administrators, either or, to be armed? Now, let me just caveat it. They would have to volunteer. There would be training involved. It wouldn't be something where they're carrying it in their classroom, but have the option and the ability for school administration and teachers, I know there's a little different, to have the training and be able to go grab a firearm or something were to happen.
I don't know, man. I mean, I could see the pros and cons to everything. Like, I mean, like because let's say Mr. Macaluso's in his room, I never was a Marine or a cop or anything, but, I took the training and I carry a gun and there's an active shooter and, I get the kids in the corner and I sit there my job is to protect those kids. And if, say crazy Adam tries to come in the classroom and I can stop the shooter there, but then it's like, the problem is everybody think, I don't know because, is someone going to freeze? I mean, a cop could freeze, but I don't know, man. Are you opening Pandora's box with it? I mean, I think there's pros and cons to it.
Well, you haven't started yet, and I asked BJ, and his initial reaction was like, "Hell no!" Nah. And then he thought about it for a minute. But I'll give you the one of the insights that I said I would do this last time, and I haven't done it yet. I got to find the article, but it was on a podcast or something. But he was like a former school superintendent or something. Anyway, whatever, and he was against arming school administrators and teachers, not because that he thought that they were, not brave or not because he didn't think that they couldn't do it. He just said those are different people. He goes, there's a reason they're educators. Their role is to educate, nurture, develop young students. He goes, that's a different person than someone who sticks their hand up and says, I want to be a cop, I want to be a soldier or a Marine. He goes, those are different personality types. And he goes, when you try to start combining them, he goes, you might, one, be sending the wrong message, and two, you might be putting an expectation on somebody who was never, that's not who they are. And again, what's wrong with that, right?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, it's you like someone gets in to be a teacher. They're like, okay, I'm a teacher. I didn't join up to, go through firearms training and do this, do that. Like I want to teach kids. I want to teach kids math or history. Like I don't want to have to worry about having a gun, and having to shoot some kid that's coming in. So, I mean, that's a legit reason. That's legit what that administrator's saying.
Yeah. I got to look that up because I got to find it. Just one last thing. But again, I can only go off my experience in school, which was limited, but I'm I guess mostly like coaches and stuff. They were always teachers. I'm like, some of those dudes were bad motherfuckers. Like I could absolutely see it. But then, I listened to that superintendent talk, or I have to look it up, and I'm misquoting maybe his position. I'll find it for the next one, damn it. But he made me stop and go, that's a valid point. I haven't thought about it that way. I'm sorry, Mo. Go ahead, Mo.
That's a valid point. I just want to flip it on its head for just a minute. With you, Adam, going into this position, you're going to be the one singular officer at this school, I assume, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I'll be a floater right now, but that's basically it.
But it's just you at a school that could be anywhere from, I know like for us down here, our schools can range from anything from 500 enrollment all the way up to 3,000 enrollment. So you're looking at big facilities. If you flip it on its head for a minute and you think you're the one guy that's in charge of a small city, would it be beneficial if you did have teachers that were willing, not forced, but willing to step into that role that you knew that could act with you in the event that something happened? What's your thoughts in that situation?
Yeah, then you're that's definitely open, because you're because you may tell them hey, this is what we do. If there's a shooter, you stay in your room. That's it. Even if I get shot, stay there, protect your classroom. And then, what if they don't want to do that? Or, that's part of the thing. When I like Tyler, like you fly armed, like I always told the pilots, like something happens, don't open the door, land the fucking plane. You don't want some pilot coming out like, you're fighting with somebody and they have a knife and they want to get to the cockpit. And what if they gut me open and then the pilot comes out and wants to stop it. And then the guy gets in there and cuts both pilots' throats. Like, okay, HAL 9000's not going to land the plane. Like, just, know your lane. I don't know. It's like, I would be a little leery having, people armed that because you guys know as well as I do that the training's going to be like 2 days of shooting, and then they're going to be like, okay, now you can carry a gun. Yeah.
We had this whole debate because I'm wearing like a different hat now. And so now I'm like, oh, this is crazy. I don't know. I'm not. The thing that sticks out in my head is response time. Even with you being there, how long does it take for you to get to wherever this person is?
Yeah.
I know, like, the role that I've taken on now is I started substitute teaching at my son's school. And I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, put me in. But I get what you're saying. Not everybody has been a cop for 17 years and was a firearms instructor and did things that I've done. But at the same time, I'm like, if we can stop the threat, I don't know that I'm ready to say no to it.
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Like, I don't know if it like a hard nose there. Like, it's like, it's definitely something that needs to be researched and discussed more. That's the big thing. But you're right. Like, what if I'm like at one end of the high school and somebody comes in at the other end, and I'm like, by the time I get there, like I said, I was never a good runner. I'm like,
like, just give me your gun. I got
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, food for thought, maybe for the next one. And Mo, please remind me. I got to look that up because I keep quoting something that I could be way off base, but that's how I remember it.
Well, you are way off base. I think it's it is a viewpoint that you got to consider.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Adam, any parting words, sir?
No, man. Awesome as always. Let's do this fucking again soon.
Yeah, we will. We should do the next one live, buddy, or in person, I should say.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Mo, anything?
Can we go out to LA and do it?
We could, buddy. We could. They let me in.
Yeah. I'll go. I'm there.
I love it. I'll see if I can make that happen. I'd love to do that. We do a longer form one, I think.
Oh, fuck yeah, man.
Awesome.
Mo, anything?
No, I think we hit a lot of cool things that I was able to pick his brain a little bit and get to know who he is. So I'm excited. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for being here, Mo. And again, thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
All right.